Welcome everyone to another episode of the Podcast. I'm once again joined by my co-host Hagop.
Hi everyone.
Today we wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the importance of September. September seems to be a very important, pivotal, and monumental period for the Armenian people, and because of that, we wanted to take this opportunity to have an episode where we discuss some of the important events, share our experiences, and also remember all of those who sacrificed their lives for the security of our homeland. With that being said, many people know that Hagop served as the advisor to the state minister of Artsakh, and he'd been living there for a few years before the blockade and the mass exodus that took place in 2023. Very few people know that he was one of the last few people to exit Artsakh. And just to backtrack a little bit, when we're talking about September and all the important dates, September 2nd, 1991, Artsakh declared its independence. September 21st, 1991, the Republic of Armenia declared its independence. September 27th, 2020 was the start of the Artsakh War, the 2020 44-day war. And September 1920, the days that we just commemorated, were the days of the one-day war, as many call it, that led to the final mass exodus of Artsakh and the ultimate occupation of Artsakh, where over 120, 130, 140,000 Artsakh Armenians were forced from their homes and forced to relocate to Armenia in literally a week. Mm-hmm. So during that week, I was in Armenia and Hagop was in Artsakh. So Hagop, please, I know you don't do this often, but I think it's it's great insight for us to have. So please, if you will, give us some input on how some of the final days were.
On the 19th of September, around noon, suddenly we realized very quickly that the Azerbaijani regime started bombarding all across the border, and it was very fast. Obviously after 2020, people in Stepanakert and in the different regions, they realized that this might be I'm not going to call it the end, but this might be the final solution, as the Azerbaijani regime was threatening us days before and weeks before that. I think it's important to see the events that took place a few days before all that, and because that we were watching things from, basically looking at the information that was coming through and everything, we were quickly realizing that something's cooking, something's happening. We could see that there was movement all around the border. There was troops gathering in different locations, and the intel that was coming through was that something dangerous was happening. Of course, we were conveying everything to our colleagues in Armenia. We were hoping that some kind of support would come, but things happened as they happened in the end. Something that we need to kind of understand, it's even less than 24 hours if we look at the timeline, because they attacked on the 19th. Mm-hmm. There was an understanding that a ceasefire understanding. I'm not going to even call it a treaty because it was an understanding. And then on the 20th, when our troops were coming down from their positions, they started firing at our different locations and etc. Dickran, just so you can understand, it was a matter of minutes that our villages and the different regions that they were falling under Azeri control. They were very organized. They knew exactly what they were doing. This was planned to the T. Everything that they did was calculated. Now, of course, each one of us in the structure, in the governmental structure, we took we tried to go and get instructions as to what we need to do, but as the information was coming through, we understood that there's not a lot that we can do. Obviously, the demands were put down. They told us what they demanded from us, which was the dissolution of the army, the dissolution of the government. We were forced to take some of the steps that we took, but of course, the dissolution of the government as it's been portrayed, it wasn't legal because with the constitution that we have in Artsakh, the president is not allowed to dissolve the government or dissolve the state.
But Hagop, now I know the attack and the so-called ceasefire and then the start of the exodus happened in a matter of days, but could you give us, or could you tell us a little about what, I guess, the state of the people were? I'm sure it was very chaotic. The fuel depot also exploded while all of this chaos was going on. So imagine that you already have maybe 24 hours to pack as many things as you can to make your way towards Armenia. An explosion happens too. I'm sure everyone's affected in some capacity through the war, through the explosion, and now like everyone's just getting their stuff to make way. So and like we've all seen some horrific photos of what the Harabarak Verazanut Harabarak of Stepanakert was like. So, and you were there. I know you've shared some pictures too. So can you give us some information about that?
So on the 19th, as I said, at noon, the panic started. So, after 2020 and, seeing what the Azeris were capable of doing to civilians and to our soldiers, and the same that they followed doing after in Chermuk and etc., when they attacked Armenia proper, it was obvious that, that these people are ruthless and they're ready to do horrible things, things that shouldn't happen even in a war and etc. So when they attacked, when the first bombings were heard in Stepanakert, everyone rushed to their loved ones to find their families and etc. A lot of our boys, a lot of our friends run towards the border to kind of try and see what our soldiers needed, to stand by them, to help them. I myself went to close it because I was going to the university that day to give out a speech. And if anyone knows Stepanakert, the university, behind the university there's a school. So instead of going to the university, I ran to the school where there was panic. I tried helping the teachers gather the children, put them in the badvals, in the bunkers, try and kind of guide the parents that they were coming to not create more panic. Because for me, I don't know what came into me. There was no panic. There was just a sense of, okay, what do we need to do? Maybe that's the way that my mind works or my psychology works. But immediately I was, that's what I did. I tried guiding, and then as soon as the bombing stopped for a little while, if you like, I quickly went back to the government building, and as I did every single day, just went back to my office, grabbed my laptop, and then tried to go and find the state minister, and so I can get my orders as to what I need to do. And quickly, there was a division of work. Everyone took different positions. We tried doing, I was sent to the morgue at one point. Then I was sent, to the depots to kind of find what food resources we had, and quickly come back to the state minister and kind of report on, this is what we have, this is what's happening. Then I was calling different village heads to kind of try and understand what's happening, because what they did, they immediately stopped all our communication channels with the other cities, with Mardagerd and Marduni, and our concern was that once they cut off the vital roads, because there was only one road going to Marduni, or there was one road going to Mardagerd, and as soon as they disrupted that link, we would have lost complete control of our cities, and we were afraid that this was going to be a genocide, and this is what it was looking like. And suddenly, as I said, everyone took their positions, trying to gather information, trying to understand, because anyone who's been in a scenario like that knows how important information is.
And clearly the movement of everybody to Armenia became the alternative to genocide, right? Because everyone knows that Artsakh Armenian, if they stayed under Azerbaijan's occupation, that they're going to suffer at the hands of another genocide.
Exactly. The Azeris were conveying messages to us through different channels that you can stay, nothing will happen, and etc. But after 2020, and the way that they were destroying our cultural sites, and seeing the photos being released by them, even there's stories that they were using people that their phones and etc. to call their families, to tell them about their loved ones and etc. After all that, people were not ready to even consider staying back and etc.
And can you tell us what day you stayed until?
Yeah, I stayed until the 1st of October. And to be quite honest, I was talking with my family, I was talking with my friends until, I think it was until the 29th or the 30th, when the Azeris came they were in the city on the 29th.
So Azerbaijani servicemen were in Stepanakert those days?
So they had taken control of the NSS building already, and then they took the Ministry of Interior, the control of that building, basically the central police station, if you like, in Stepanakert. And you could see them roaming in the city already. The road to Askeran was blocked off, and
so for the most part, people were taking their own cars or anything they could drive. And then were there buses organized? Was there even enough buses to be organized by the Republic of Artsakh at the time?
That's one of those questions that it's like. We were asking, different NGOs, different organizations, different people, like to kind of help us get buses in. Now, when the decision was made, we sent different messages to our colleagues again here in Armenia to kind of help us with the situation. And the problem was that the drivers did not want to come to Artsakh, and I think that says a lot. Okay, I understand that they were afraid for their own lives and etc. But at the end of the day, I don't know. There's 120,000 of your fellow Armenians, okay, crying, being afraid that they're gonna be executed, killed, massacred. Okay, look. I'm not gonna ask anyone to kill himself to come and save me and etc. But the least that I want is someone to try and help me when I'm in need. At least that's what I've been. I don't know. That's the Tastyara Gutyun. That's how I've been brought up. Anyway, cut long story short, the problem was we didn't have enough of anything at that point of time. Now. I remember one of the places that I went last to kind of take them food and everything, because the buses were coming in drips and drops. Now, I went to the school, it was all Mardunetsis. Now, one of the things that one of the ladies, told me, because as soon as I walked in, I kind of asked, okay, I've been asked to come here to ask you, what do you guys need? And suddenly a group of people approached me, they all rounded me. I was like, okay, there's two things that can happen now. Either I'm going to get beaten up, or, I don't have good news for them. Because they're asking me, when are the buses coming? Are we going to stay here? is this it for us?
So there was a fear with many residents of Artsakh that they were going to be left there.
Absolutely, and especially when the people, because the first people that got that left Artsakh were the people that they were in the airport area. So after that, it was because the instruction was the people from Mardaghet will come and they will directly go out because we couldn't sustain them in Stepanakert. Now, when they came in, suddenly the whole city got overcrowded. We couldn't control who's coming, who's joining those people from Mardaghet and etc. So when I went to the school, as I said, the crowd just rounded me and they were asking me, are we coming out? What's happening? Why have you left us here? And everything. We don't have clean water. We don't have this. We don't have that. And they listed some demands. And I told them, okay, guys, look, the buses are not going to come today. I want to be honest with you. They're like, yeah, but the Azeris are in the city. They're going to kill us. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. I'm like, no. Look, the buses will come tomorrow. I guarantee you that. That I know. Now, what do you need for at least today and tomorrow morning, so you can have something to eat, something to drink, and etc. So, because I had been to the depots, I already knew because of I was distributing food to the different locations where the people were. So I went to the depots. I got whatever they needed, whatever they had asked for. Came back. They told me, look, the only reason why we trusted you is because you speak Western Armenian, just like Monte, and we had a very good friend called Shant, just like Shant. I'm like, oh, Shant, I know Shant. Shant is a really good friend of mine, and and the next morning I went again, and one of the mothers came and told me, look, my children are getting sick. There's everyone here is getting sick. There's disease coming. A disease was spreading. Because of there was no clean water. There was nothing. So I'm like, look, I'm gonna ask the ICRC to come, because at that point of time, what I'm saying is that we had no doctors in the town. There was no doctors in the town. Imagine. There was no police. There was no one. These people were left, and they felt that no one's looking after them, no one's going to help them. There was this despair. So I I immediately called the ICRC, the people from ICRC. It's not, I don't want to say much about them because I've got my own opinion about them, but they did come, they did help. And in the end, when we were like 5 or 6 people left, plus the presidents and their guard and everything, they were all going around and kind of helping the giving us the rations and etc. to kind of give out. But on the 1st of October already, when there was like maybe 10-12 of us left, including the last people that we had gathered from the different places in town, we were waiting for a bus from Armenia to come, that an Artsakh boy, Hike, for me, I've got loads of respect for him. He was working for the social ministry. Okay, so he was the only person most probably that had come to Armenia and came back.
Wow.
He was arguing with the Azeris, firstly arguing with the Armenians, okay, and then arguing with the Azeris. Now, obviously from the 19th, I hadn't seen lavash or anything like that, so Hike comes with...
From way before that.
Yeah.
I mean, Artsakh had been under blockade for 10 months almost.
Yeah, but there was people that they were making it in their houses and etc. from flour that we had, that they had kept and everything. So every now and again you would see bread, lavash. Someone would come up with lavash. So Hike came with I don't know, it was like a bag full of lavash. And it's like, look, I've got lavash. And, you know, my first thing was, okay, now I've got people staying in the government building because all the people had come into the government building. Just to explain, so what we were doing, we were going from neighborhood to neighborhood, knocking together with the emergency services boys, okay, and the ICRC, because moving in town was very difficult. You had the Azeri special forces, you had the Azeri FSB, okay, and then you had the only way that you could go around it was with ICRC and with their flag, and then we were going from, as I said, from neighborhood to neighborhood, knocking on doors, shouting, if there's anyone here, come out, etc. And we were basically getting everyone in, getting all the crowd in to stay in the government building. Of course, the last people were the people who didn't have family, didn't have help. You know, the older generation. And every morning, you know, I would get one of those rations from the ICRC, give them food, give them breakfast, and then give them lunch, and etc. So when the lavash came, I'm like, wow, okay, I'm gonna gather my crowd and give them some lavash. It was, you know, for me, it was like, okay, these people are gonna eat properly today, and then if, God willing, the bus comes, if Hike manages to go through, okay, then, you know, they'll leave with, you know, stuffed stomach. So anyway, we gathered everyone. The last bus was gathered. We told them, okay, now we're gonna leave. Hike left in the front, and then we went.
But normally, I mean, I know I heard from a bunch of different Artsakhs that came, there was a few checkpoints that you guys went through to come to Armenia, right? Like there was the Azeris and Armenians, right? And then at the Hakkari Gamur, like what was that like in your case?
Oh, in our case,
there's probably no one there.
It was just Azeris.
It was just Azeris?
Just the Azeris, yeah. Now, at the first checkpoint was in, as soon as you come out of Stepanakert. There, it was mainly a mixture of the Azeri FSB and the Azeri soldiers. Now, the Azeri soldiers, the FSB had orders. The FSB had orders not to touch us, not to, you know, make contact with us or anything like that. You know, like to just let us go. It's the soldiers that, I don't know. They said some of the things that they said were, you know, provocative to say the least. They talked about Khojalu, they talked about this, they talked about that. You know, why? The only thing that the FSB was asking, like, why are you guys leaving? Just stay. We won't do anything to you. Just stay. But of course, we've seen what's happened to the people that they've stayed. They've used them as show ponies and etc. So yeah, no, yeah, I'm grateful that we didn't in the end.
Thank you for that, Hagop. And I know it's a very packed question, so if you can think of anything, like feel free to interrupt me at any point. As a follow-up to what you're talking about, I want to give some insight on the Armenian side of things, because while Hagop was in Artsakh at that time and just briefly gave us a recap of that week, I was in Yerevan initially when the September 1920 war broke out, and not knowing when the departure was going to happen, I just decided to go to Goris, to Kornidzor, which was the first village as you enter Armenia, just to see what the situation was like, at the border. You can even see Berzor from afar at that point. And at that point, you can see a lot of the trucks that were literally stopped on the Armenian side, blocked and banned entry during the blockade. And at that point, if I'm not mistaken, I think September 23rd, maybe the first group of Artsakh Armenians made it into Armenia. And just to give everybody a perspective, the drive from Stepanakert to the border and Goris is generally about an hour and a half to 2 hours normally.
2 hours, yeah,
and it's maybe 140, 150 kilometers. But during these days, because of the state of chaos, the state of panic, the checkpoints and everything, it was 2 to 4 days it was taking for 24 to longer, 2 to 4 days for these families to arrive to Goris. And on top of it, in brutal conditions. Like from what I recall, there was even dozens of people that either got sick or passed away just on that drive.
Passed away as well.
That died on that drive.
There was lately I saw one of these documentaries that was made after the Exodus, and I think it was Guyana that was saying it. And on the same road, we saw births and deaths. It was on the same road, on that 2-hour road that should have taken 2 hours. It took some people more than a day and a half or two.
And from what I remember, first families were arriving in Kornidzor. If they had their own car, they would check in and register to the best of their abilities. Although it was a mess over there too. They would check in. If they had transportation and a means to just continue to Armenia and gather or figure things out, they would do that. If they didn't, they would be sent to Goris at the time for like a needs assessment and that was taking place in the cultural center in Goris, which is in the center, where families were also staying. Like families were staying in Goris's cultural center that week, and Goris is a population of about 15 to 20,000 people, and in 1 week span, over 100,000 people came in and left. It
was a logistical nightmare, to say the least. And
between Kornidzor, Goris, and then extending into the city of Vik, just this registration process, figuring out what these families need, who's sick, who needs some type of resource, where to go next. It absolutely seemed like a nightmare. And in the middle of that, there's organizations trying to lend a hand or just be supportive, and there was a tent set up at Kornidzor too, but it seemed like we were not able to handle and accommodate everything that was happening. It was very overwhelming.
Well, let me tell you a phone call that I had with one of my colleagues here in Armenia. So I told them, look, the border opens tomorrow, okay, presumably, because we don't know that we'll be allowed. Are you ready to accept 120,000 plus people? Yes, we are ready. Yes. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I don't think you know what's coming. I don't think you understand. Okay, you even comprehend as to what's coming towards you.
Like, God bless some of the organizations that were on the ground, like the Tufengan Foundation, the Armenian Relief Society, All for Armenia, AMA, among others, who were there, because without them, I can't even imagine what would have happened if we just left to the sole Red Cross. I remember,
and also the volunteers.
I remember UNICEF, I think, showed up like on day 5. Like, it's been 5 days of Artsakhs coming into Armenia, and some group of the United Nations was just setting up their tents in Goris like on the 5th day. So, I mean, I couldn't believe that. But some of these other organizations were there from day one, trying to just simple necessities, food, water.
I can tell you, like, for example, with Greg from the Tufengan Foundation, we were in communication from every single moment when it all started. Like, Greg would call every few days, he will message and etc., asking, okay, what's the situation on the ground? Where are you guys? What are you doing? What do you need? And when we talked about the buses, one of the organizations that we were asking for help was Tufengan Foundation, and one day Greg should be here and to tell us about how difficult it was.
I remember personally getting some food from the Tufengan Foundation's Bahes and pushing it through to the Hakkari Gamurj as close as we possibly could to help feed cars that were stopped, because on the way, cars were stopping because they were running out of benzene, they were running out of food, and they were so close to Armenia. Imagine all the stuff that they needed that they're unable to get. And the way it was is that when they arrived to Kornidzor, there was a section blocked off, and then there was family members, journalists, and politicians just trying to make somewhat of a show out of it too. But while all these family members were just trying to reunite with their family members in order to get safety and security at that point. So it was literally like hell week that week, from what I remember.
To say the least. One of the things that I didn't describe, and maybe a different day or some other time we'll talk about it. It's explosion and everything that happened around that, because that was something that it wasn't. We didn't need that. Absolutely, we lost more people that day than we'd lost during the war. in just few hours.
Yeah, just to give our followers some context too, in that September 1920 war, I believe there was around 200 Armenians that gave their lives.
Over 218 people.
And I think probably over at least 250 that were killed in the explosion, and there's more that whose bodies were never found, who were missing as a result.
The 218 is the confirmed dead from the explosion.
From the explosion?
Yeah.
But I believe there were over 200 Armenian servicemen who gave their lives defending on September 1920. And then there's even more who were missing, whose bodies were never found, who DNA sampling was needed in order to recover their bodies.
And also there's a lot of people who we couldn't DNA, we couldn't identify because there was nothing left.
Yeah.
And we have the families now here in Armenia, with the bread earner gone, and the son's gone, and etc. There's very I'm gonna say tragic because of the lack of a better word, but painful stories.
And now it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years, and we were just talking about how, as a nation, we weren't able to accommodate over 100,000 Artsakh Armenians that came into Armenia. But it's been 2 years, and the status of your fellow Artsakh Armenian in Hayastan is still a question mark. Many are trying to leave if given the opportunity. There's a lot of citizenship issues, paperwork issues, which is very petty. And overall, they're not receiving either the necessary resources that they were promised or are supposed to receive. And it's still a mess 2 years after, as we're looking at it. Families are not being offered the justice that they deserve, that they are promised. And I mean, I think we can definitely leave that for another episode to get into the current state of affairs. But I wanted to leave it to our experiences this episode. I wanted to kind of share our experiences, but also in a way leave this as the commemoration for the people that deserve a voice, for the people that deserve our attention until today, and all of those servicemen whose memories we need to honor, respect, and
also our political prisoners that we have, our hostages, the hostages that we have, that what the Azerbaijani regime tried to do, and and they haven't succeeded, because we're still here, we're still strong, we're still ready to fight for what's ours. And I think it's important to convey the message that as we've said before and again, and I think we'll convey this message again in other episodes. Artsakhis are very resilient people, regardless of what's happened and what might happen. I think that desire to go back to our ancestral lands will continue, and the struggle doesn't end here, and we will continue regardless of who or what, and how much time goes by.
And guys, some of the organizations we mentioned, like I'll say it again, like the Tufengan Foundation, the Armenian Relief Society, AMAA, All for Armenia, and I'll add Loric Fund to that as well, among others. Make sure to support these organizations. We have a Patreon set up, but it's primarily for you guys to be able to support these organizations. Like, we promise to support and provide the necessary resources to organizations like the ones we mentioned, in order to continue to do the good work that they're doing, because I guarantee you that the work that they're doing is not enough. They could use our support, they could use our resources, and that's all we ask that you guys continue to do, because the need is a lot.
Yeah, and I think every little bit helps. And as Dickran mentioned, the Patreon is not for us, it's for projects that we believe in. And I think in a few episodes we'll be able to kind of share with you some of the projects, the initiatives, the projects that we've joined and we believe in, and you'll be able to kind of understand a little bit more as to how we see things and how we understand them. But thank you for joining.
Thank you guys. Make sure to follow us on, subscribe on YouTube, listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of our social media channels. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.